Welcome back to my channel. Wendy Renee here. So excited to have you back. Sit tight, grab a drink because you're going to love this story. So let's go. Before we begin, I'd like to thank you so much for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Oh my God, you guys, the podcast is doing really well. And I'm so honored to have this community here. It just goes to show that there is hope and positivity and joy on the other side of high control religion and narcissistic abuse. Be sure to click that little bell at the top of your app. It just lets you know when we drop another video, and it can keep you up to date on all things devout. With that being said, let's get into our next topic. Rion, it is such an honor to have you on this channel. And if you're listening on the podcast, thank you so much for being here. I've been following Rion on TikTok since I first started, and your account blew up. It's massive, and you've kind of gotten, in addition to talking about ExJw activism, you've also gotten into talking about some amazing historical, archaeological, and biblical, not biblical truths and myths and lies. So first, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us what brought you here, and take it away for us.
Well, so I am Rion, and so about 2 years ago, things weren't really making sense to me. I had been a little removed from the religion, and slowly but surely, all the questions that I had had as a kid that were continuously pushed down were bubbling to the surface, and I just couldn't ignore them anymore. And finding out about hiding the sexual abuse in the organization really was like pushing me to the forefront. And once I discovered that, I was like, oh my goodness. And when I started to join groups like ExJWs, and I was seeing these videos of people on TikTok and on YouTube, I'm like, oh my God, there's people out here, and they have voices just like me. They have experiences just like me. I'm not alone, because I always felt so alone. They always seem to make you feel so alone. And when I got on TikTok, and I believe Ember is one of the first persons that I found from the ExJW community. And then, a plethora of other people through them I found. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I can talk about stuff too. And I think that was probably like maybe my 10th video. I'm not sure, but I was just like, I grabbed my book of Bible stories, and I was like, I'm ready to talk about it. And I started telling the stories from the book. And then I started to hear about the ancient gods that came before Yahweh. And I was like, wait a minute, God had a wife. Like my head all within this 2-year period was exploding with what was a lie, what was a truth. And I felt like I couldn't be silent. I couldn't just sit there and think I'm the only one, because obviously people are responding. People are seeing like, oh, wow, I'm just like her too. And we all have so much in common. And this one commonality is this cult-like behavior from these organizations. So when I'm fighting back, I'm not just fighting back Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm sorry, not Jehovah's Witnesses. I want to say these organizations. Right. I'm not just fighting back the organizations, because the people, we were all
victims too.
Exactly.
We were all back victims. A little bit. How deep involved in the organization were you? Born and raised? Were you baptized young? What did your JW career look like?
Oh, so my JW career. So my parents were young, terrible. They both had not very good childhoods. My mother, especially, a lot of domestic violence in her household. She's had her nose broken. I mean, there's just a lot of bad stuff. And she's told these stories. I wouldn't tell anything that she hasn't already told, because I wouldn't do that. But so she was raised in an environment of control and, not very good. And my dad lost his mother young. So when they found the truth, my mom already had like this attachment to it because her parents were starting to get into it. But my dad just was like Christian. He was Catholic. And around 5 years old, so we didn't celebrate holidays or anything like that, but around 5 to 10 years old, they were trying to get their life back on track. So they would, Bible study sometimes, and they wouldn't. And eventually they got baptized. They stopped smoking. They stopped doing all the things that, worldly people were doing. And life kind of seemed to get better, because I wasn't living in a good environment as a kid, because a lot of the same issues my mom had then was now my environment. So I was seeing a lot of things that were disturbing, but they find this truth and things seem to change. So you think, oh, okay, well, maybe life is going to get better. And, sometimes you just take people who have these issues and then you put them in a religion and they just learn to use the control in a different way, maybe just not as abusive, but they learn to be the head of the household.
Yeah, most people who aren't born in seem to join because they're looking for answers to life's most perplexing questions.
Right. So they think they have the answers. We now meet these new friends and, I have all these friends to play with and I'm telling you, I got a lot of energy. So that was fun. I was okay with that. So around 10 to 11 years old is when I personally started to feel like I noticed I wasn't really, like, the changes weren't real changes, but I couldn't, none of these things I could express. There was nothing I could express. These are just me looking back, being able to notice. And I think probably around 13, I began to get a bit depressed, but I had no idea what it was because there was nobody talks to you about your mental health and how you're feeling. Are you happy with your life? There's none of that. You're just told what you're supposed to do as a good JW kid. And I thought that the best way to fix my life maybe was to get baptized. And you always get told if you don't want to get baptized and you know that it's the truth, then you really shouldn't have the responsibility to be able to drive or to have a job or, what makes you worthy of those things if you don't even want to be responsible enough to be seen as one of Jehovah's people. So you are corralled down this road that you really have to take. As much as they say it's a choice, it's not a choice. It's coercion into baptism. So at 15 years old, I got baptized and I did get my license immediately because at 15 back then you were allowed to get your learner's permit. Back in the day, you get your learner's permit at 15. So I got that and I thought I was going to get more responsibility and I was able to get a job. So that was the one responsible thing I was allowed to have. But as far as any other things in like school that I was wanting to do, that like singing and things, fortunately, they let me join a singing group, but that was the only thing. And I did get in a little bit of trouble because I sang a song I wasn't supposed to sing. But, there's so many other things you want to participate in, like drama.
You sang a song you weren't.
Yeah, I sung a Christian. Well, it wasn't even a bad. It literally said, "Blessed Holy Savior, you're worthy to be praised." And my parents got up and walked out of the of the thing, and I just was like, "Oh no!" My heart sunk because I saw them get up and walk out, like in the middle of me singing, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be a problem." But I can on with the show. I still continued the show.
Wow. The show must go on.
The show must go on. But anyway, so I thought that they were going to see that I was responsible and allow me to hang out with my friends more, allow me to have some more freedom. And none of that happens. At least for me, that didn't happen. And so the depression just kind of got worse. And for most of my teen, as happy as I was so sad because I didn't know what to do with all these thoughts and dreams and aspirations that were just getting squashed as a kid. And then, at 19, was it, I got disfellowshipped. So it wasn't long after 50. So like 4 years after, I ended up getting disfellowshipped, teenagers.
You sang that song in that show and the rest is just downhill from there. I mean, that's clearly what happened. Obviously. Yeah.
Right. I mean, how dare you? I praised Jesus.
Oh, no.
And how dare I praise Jesus, right? Oh horrible. Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. So there's just those weird experiences that you have as a teenager, as a J-dub, that other people just wouldn't really get. But it's nice that I've been able to see other people like YouTube, TikTok going, similar things happen to me.
Because when you wake up, you think your situation, I was just writing about this, that you think that your situation is unique. And then when you start hearing the stories of other people, you think, wow, I'm not the only one who had these thoughts, went through this. Because when you're in the organization, you think there's something wrong with you. So you keep it under wraps.
That's exactly it. I held so much in, and I can talk about any subject, but being able to talk about my emotions, be able to talk about my feelings, since it was something so stifled. And even if I did express myself, it was like, well, why do you feel that way? Okay, well, that's how it has to be because Jehovah says. Well, then you obviously don't, then I don't know what to tell you. I feel how I feel because I'm not allowed to live my life and therefore I'm sad. Well, here's a solution to not be sad. Do more field service. Pray harder. Something must be wrong with you. That's why you're not joyous. And I thought my life is going to be going door to door. And I hated it. I never placed literature. And I was just seeing these visions of my life of servitude, just servitude.
One of the things, I don't know if you remember this acronym, was JOY, Jehovah, others, yourself.
Yes, so that's right. Oh my gosh.
Put yourself last, which I could see how that's again, this is a JW term. I could see how that's a double-edged sword. It's not saying to think of others before you think of yourself in the term of being giving and, being a humanitarian, but it's literally telling you, you think of God first, then others, and you're going to put yourself dead last. And we took that to the ultimate level of almost to the point where we had no self-worth, no self-value.
Right. No, absolutely not. And then waking up, I guess these are all like the things I'm like, and then this is my most important part. And I'll keep telling you, like, this is the most important part.
No, it's all important.
Really, but then realizing I was worshiping men. I was worshiping, like, this had nothing to do with a God. Like, when I started finding about like the real history of the Bible, the real stories that kind of created the biblical stories, these men did no research. I believed it when they said, oh, they do this research and they have this biblical scholar who's learned Greek and did the translate. Lies. Like, I believed every word that these men said. And now their faces are broadcast on live everywhere for millions, billions to see. And it's lies. Like, none of it's true. So while for a while I thought it was me, I'm the issue, I came to realize, like, no, it's not me. I'm not the issue. And for a while I thought, okay, well, there's not any harm being done, really. So let people believe what they want to believe. And then I started to move into this. No, this is purposeful. What they are doing is sickening. Like, these men are megalomaniacs. They are abusing their power. People are dying. This isn't just like, oh, okay, well, they're happy. Let them live their lives. That's fine if that's what you choose. But children are dying. Children are being harmed. We're being programmed to allow this stuff. We're being programmed to be silent and to not question the authority of Jehovah, which is 8 men. And that's the part where I thought, I can't be silent. I can't let people just go on believing this is the mouthpiece of a God. It's absolutely not. So
one guest say that their conscience would no longer allow them to teach others what they were learning in the JW organization. Funny how that works, how it switches. So what I find interesting about you too is, as women, we were not allowed to teach. We all know that it's very misogynistic, patriarchal, and women are very subservient. Right. But what I find especially encouraging and upbuilding about you is the fact that you did give yourself permission to do research. And when you left, or I believe you're still fated, which we can get to, you didn't join another groupthink, because when we leave, we're all susceptible to that. And I'm curious, and for the women watching and listening, I'm very curious how you started on this journey of research, how you found good sources, and other than Google, and you can just touch on that and some of the things you came up with that completely changed your life.
Absolutely. So one of the first things like I said, I started researching was the governing body. And after that, I had delved deep into the gods of the Bible. And I heard a video, someone said that God had a wife. And I was like, God had a wife. And I'm like, okay, Asherah. I do remember them talking about Asherah poles. And okay, let me look at this. And I found, okay, so my biggest source that I go to is jstore.org. And then I realized that most books, if you search for the book and then PDF, you can find them free. Don't get me in trouble. Now there's some books I bought. Right. But jstore.org is like all research stuff. So it's free. You get like 100 articles a month. And I usually only use like 50 of them. And then I think it's like academia.edu. And all I do is search for like the God's names. So like I search for Asherah, for Yahweh, and all these things started coming up. And I started putting the pieces together about how Yahweh was part of a pantheon of gods, which makes sense because the people of the area that lived there were worshiping other gods. So why would Yahweh just be this standalone God? But no, he really kind of was associated with them and had a wife. And this wife was mentioned in the Bible, not just once, but a few to 40 times, actually, she was mentioned in the Bible. And what was their reasoning on erasing her? Why was she erased? Because if these men from the governing body could lie to me and I could believe all this, what makes me think that the Bible is true? And things just started to, I don't know, fit together. All these questions that I had as a kid, I felt like were finally being answered, and I was answering them. And I was doing it because I wasn't afraid anymore. And when I had faded or left the organization, I hadn't done any research because I was still under their fear. I was afraid of apostates. I was afraid to be an apostate. So I hadn't done a lot of that stuff. But after realizing who they were, I started to stand in my power, if that makes any sense. I'm like, they told me I was nothing. Like, wait the hell a minute. I'm more than nothing. I can read this and understand and interpret it and realize what they said makes absolutely no sense. I am absolutely not wrong. This is scholarly backed information. And piecing it all together, knowing that I did that, I was like, I got to tell other people about these gods and let them know they're being lied to, just like I was lied to. And I mean, what to do with that information? I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you, but damn if it isn't interesting and cool to know that there was a matriarch that people worshipped for thousands upon thousands of years before this God Yahweh even came around. And
if you're viewing this,
yeah, they're probably like, what's this crazy woman talking about?
No, this is one of the biggest reasons why we're glad to have you. Those of you viewing this, if you're not already following her on TikTok, she has done so much research, and the videos have amassed millions of views already, because now now you're drawing a crowd of people who genuinely want to know Bible truths. And I think I've seen a couple of people who leave the Jehovah's Witness organization, many people who become atheist, agnostic. They have to title themselves and they have to find a group to belong to. And so when you find out research like this, dumb it down for me, because the research you've done, I'm not even close to doing. I'll be completely honest with you. Sometimes I watch your videos, I'm like, interesting. I'm going to save that and I'll come back to it. What does faith look like for you after you've done all this research? Because we know what faith and belief and how they're linked as a JW, but what have you discovered in your religious research?
You know, it's such a good question. And you had said before about like when people leave the JW, usually they jump into something else.
Right.
And one of the first things I had started researching was like spiritualism, witchcraft, Wicca, things like that, because I thought, okay, if there is some other than, is there a way to talk to the other than? And, you know, I'm not going to lie, I've not found anything. There's nothing that's reached out to me. I I talk to the universe as if there's somebody or something listening.
So do I. Yeah.
But that's all I have. And to be fair, truly what I respect is Mother Earth, because she is my God. She created me. I mean, so honestly, I really just want to live this. I wish we could live this life being more respectful to her. And I kind of feel like Christianity is a huge reason why the earth isn't respected, because the earth was created for people to trash. Anyway, so I looked into that and I try to talk to stuff. Nothing talks back. That's fine. If other people feel like it works for them, that's great. But right now, I would say I'm more of like an agnostic atheist. I just kind of float around. And I even heard the term atheo-pagan. So I don't necessarily believe in the traditions, but I do like feel reverence for them, because it is special. It is cool to look at these ancients and what they believed in these different pantheons and how they transformed and translated through time. It's amazing. And it's just like the Bible just dumps it down so much. It makes me so sad that people don't really get the history.
And I agree with you. You know, I start the day, I use the term universe a lot, because I don't know if God is an interventionist the way that the witnesses claim him to be with one particular favorite group of people, or the way modern Christianity thinks that God is some kind of a human interventionist. But I believe in what's real. And I heard a quote this week that said that if you have a belief without evidence, then you have a delusion. And I never realized that was what I could speak for myself. My whole life was basically a delusion. And then we're given evidence that it's not true. And so now we're on the other side of what truth was to us, and we're considered the crazy ones. And I just find this to be so extremely fascinating. This is why I make it a point to just kind of live a life of gratitude, and everything works out for me, even when it doesn't. I just firmly believe in that. And yes, I really appreciated that you used the word reverence, because even though the Bible to me is not a guidebook, I think it's a cool book. I think it's a cool,
it is.
Just like, I don't know, I'm a big fan of Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald and all of the respected books throughout literature. I respect these books. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean I'm going to live my life according to what Hemingway said. I respect the veracity of it. Mm-hmm. And I think we've come a little too far into this whole guiding everybody's life by every word and deed that's in the Bible.
Right. Because I think that's when people are easily misled, because it's so easy to helicopter into the Bible and pick a verse. And, it means this and it means that. It's just so easy to do that. And that's exactly what, like, I never thought that Jehovah's Witnesses did that.
Me either. No, because you know what? I remember they had their...
They said they didn't.
The book, The Bible, God's Word or Man's. And then there was a couple of videos they did. I forget, like on the Greek Septuagint. They had all these amazing, allegedly researched materials where it was kind of, the research was done for us. That was the problem.
Exactly. And then you realize they didn't research a damn thing, or they took the parts that they wanted, or did the whole JW thing where they say the first couple parts of the sentence and then ... And then the last couple parts you missed the middle part where they really said that doesn't mean anything that you just made it sound like. But they're excellent at misquoting. And at some point I'm going to start going through their literature and trying to pinpoint some of their quotes and see how far off they were. So the Bible being a great story book now, so I can see it for what it is, a cool story for people to be like, wow, it's that old. Whew. Humanity is pretty cool that we kept something around that long. That's how I can see it as special.
Yes.
But trying to take my everyday life when my husband is abusive to me and try to see what Paul said to Peter, like, no, that's not helpful for me. That's not guidance. That's spiritual abuse. That is mental abuse. That is gaslighting. Don't like that. And I look at these really cool, like, instances now, like where God will be with another God, but you don't know that's what's happening in the Bible. Like, God is angry at Judge Nahor. God is angry at Yam. So God, Yahweh, is angry at the sea. And but you wouldn't know that that's speaking about a completely different God. There's so many instances of that happening. And now I see the real beauty in the layers of the history that Christianity has just flattened and whitewashed. And it's not fair because we get these really cool stories of like Zeus and all these other pantheons. And, that everybody's like, yeah, that's so cool. And then it comes to like the Bible. It's like, oh yeah, Yahweh, he's the one true God. Okay, whatever, that's fine. But why are we erasing these other gods and calling them demons? But then these other pantheons, we don't say the same thing about them. And I do wonder why that is. Is it skin color, or is it just because it's attached to the area of Canaan where the Bible was written? I truly don't know, but that is also one of the reasons why I want people to get to know these gods, because it's part of my like, as an Arab woman, that's part of my history that I want to get to know, that I was told was bad. And I want other people to see like, no, Asher was a badass. She was married to Yahweh. Like, what's the problem? If you like Solomon and King David, they were the ones who brought her in, homie.
You remind me of, I don't know if you read Amber Scora's book. She's like the OG activist. She told the story when she was a missionary in China. And she said that as a JW missionary, she was taken aback by how she was teaching Chinese people who have thousands and thousands of years of history and generational education and culture. And here she is, this JW, telling them you're wrong for generations of belief and culture. And so that is something that I find to be very fascinating, you coming. And not to mention the fact that JWs are an American religion.
Right? They have no connection. I mean, it's just so, there's so many things I could say. I have so much to say, but yeah, I think that we need to have more respect for people's culture, and proselytizing, going to other people's country, is cultural erasure. It's colonization. I absolutely hate it. I know exactly what the JWs are up to. I know it's all about land grabs. It's abundantly clear to at least me, I'm sure to most ex-JWs, that they get these quick builds and then sell them, and who's the profit from it. And then they go to other countries and build new congregations. It just hurts. It hurts my heart.
The inside, right? Sometimes I think, how did I not see it? And now I can't unsee it.
No.
So what does life look like for you now, other than TikTok? You're faded. Tell us what's going on for you now that you've woken up to these amazing new, realizations.
Well, I'm very, very fortunate that my kids were also part of the catalyst to waking me up, because they would say things. Yeah, they would say things to me. And it just, I used to think that as a kid, like specifically, like if a boy was aggressively attracted to you, like he would never take no for an answer, for instance. I was never shown how to say no, taught to say no. It was difficult for me. And like my kids would just be like, yeah, like, no, like, get out of here. I don't care. I don't stop bothering me. Don't no issue drawing boundaries. I had no idea that I had no personal boundaries. I didn't know how to protect myself. I would put myself into situations that maybe I shouldn't have, simply because I trusted people, because I had never even been in situations growing up to learn how to trust my gut instinct. Is this acceptable? Do I feel comfortable? Do I want to do this? No, I just kind of gullible. We're doing over. Oh, okay. Idiot. No, not idiot, but just sometimes you're like, oof, fell for another scam.
You were born and bred and groomed people pleasers.
And There you go. 100%. And I know that I would have made so many different decisions in my life had I at least just known how to draw boundaries and be able to move away from people who were doing harm to me, harm to others. And I didn't. I didn't protect my children enough. I didn't protect my family enough. I'm not here to poo-poo myself, but what I'm saying is if I was a bit more educated in life, I know that I would have been able to make better choices. And being somebody who's groomed to just be submissive, you don't know how to stand up for yourself. And I just want women and anybody else, LGBTQIA community, I want them to feel comfortable being who they are and setting those boundaries and not feeling bad about it. And I always felt guilty if I said no.
So you raised your kids as witnesses?
Not necessarily. I did take them to Kingdom Hall sometimes. Like being married to my ex, that was like a really tumultuous time. So like they were half witnesses, half not witness kids, because I was with my ex and then I'd leave and then he'd pull me back in. You know how they say it takes like 7-12 times. That's exactly how many times it took me to get out of there.
Here, sister. Speaking.
Yes.
Of
yeah. So
the reason why I ask is because you are just a real shining example of. There are more moms in our audiences than I think we realize.
Yeah.
And I find one of the biggest challenges, and since you're, I don't know the age of your children, but they're
old now. They're in their 20s.
You must have had children when you were like 12 because you look amazing.
Yes, I'm only 25. So yeah.
You look amazing. There's a lot of moms in our audience who are just waking up, and the fear of waking up their children, regardless of their kids' ages, is this whole issue of morality and the indoctrination of they're going to end up on drugs. And even though Jehovah's organization is not perfect, it's better than the rest of the world. So I remember thinking that as a mom. My kids are 10 and 12, and they've never been happier since we've unraveled that indoctrination in them. So if you can look back at these younger moms, if you can speak to your younger version of yourself, what are some things that maybe you can say to these younger moms who are afraid to pull them out because they're in a routine, because it's friends and family, because of the same reasons we stayed for far too long?
I mean, when it comes to my children, so like I said, they were kind of in and out. Whenever I would go back to my parents' house, we would have to go back because that's where I would go when I left my ex-husband. I'd have to go, back to the Kingdom Hall because I'm under their roof, under their, under their guidance again. Everything I do, they get judged for, how that whole everybody's held accountable type blood guilty thing. But so my children didn't really like it. You know what? They didn't enjoy it.
That most kids do.
Exactly.
When they're little, they'll believe what we told them to believe. Kids believe in Santa Claus,
Exactly. So I personally thought back to myself, thinking all the questions that I had around their age. And the only reason that I wasn't able to explore those thoughts is because I was told not to. So if my kids are having these questions, what kind of parent would I be to just shut them down? Because I hated being shut down. I liked asking questions. I'm a very curious person. I probably asked too many questions sometimes. Oopsie. Yeah, like oopsie. Sorry about that. But if you have an open conversation, like type of relationship with your child, ask them questions. They might not really even enjoy. The only reason they might like going is for their friends. I only liked going for my friends. I didn't care anything about what they were saying. Now, of course, I did pay attention. I did what I was supposed to do because that's, I did what I was supposed to do as a woman, crossing my eyes or rolling my head. Yeah. But truly, if my parents didn't want to go to a meeting one Thursday night, do you think I was begging to go?
Oh, I was overjoyed. The other thing is I'm finding that I wonder if a lot of the kids, age appropriately, maybe like preteen and up, are going because they think that's what their parents want. We want to please our parents when we're young and impressionable. And I know for me, I admit to my kids when I mess up. I mean, I've only been a parent for as long as they've been alive. So I had no problem saying, hey, listen, mommy was raised in this religion and I don't believe it anymore. So we're just going to pivot here and we'll fill in the blanks as we go, because kids fill in the blanks on their own. And a lot of times it can be more catastrophizing than reality. Like you're not going to die. Mommy's not going to die. Daddy's not going to die. We're going to be okay. We're going to figure it out. So now your kids are functioning adults and clearly not hit by any fireballs.
People live fruitful lives. My kids, my oldest got college education. My middle got a little bit of college education, now starting their own business. I mean, all my kids are functioning adults who are okay that we don't necessarily have the answers now. At least I'm not forcing answers down their throat, because having autonomy and choice with education, I'm not saying just believe the earth is flat. I do think that you should research stuff, but letting children have questions and form their own thoughts is amazing. And I honestly think that if you start having those conversations, even if it's slowly, like, do you believe everything? Do you have questions? You might find that they would be happy.
Love it.
Joyous to walk away from the organization. They're just waiting on your permission.
Something you said a few minutes ago, it really resonated with me, where you said, it resonated with me so much. I forget what it is.
How many times I forget crap.
I know. It really hit me. But we were talking about being subservient women, and that followed me in my personal life. That followed me in a marriage. That followed me as a coworker. That followed me everywhere I went, being a subservient, very believing, trusting person.
Yes.
And even though we're not directly told to be that way, it is the way we all became. And all of this to say that as a mom, and let me know if you agree or disagree with this, that I recently had conversations with my 10 and 12-year-old, like, I'm not raising you to agree with me. Just because you're my kids, I am lucky to be your mother, but don't think for 1 minute that you have to disagree with me. I mean, that you have to agree with me.
Yeah.
It's not the fact that you disagree. It's how you disagree with me. So challenge what it is that I'm teaching you. Challenge me. You have more exposure to education than maybe I do, or more. You meet different people. You meet different grownups. Say, Mom, I'm going to disagree with you on that one, and here's why. Yeah. And so what I'm trying to do is reverse that notion to just be so agreeable and obedient. I mean, if you think about it, they're taught to obey rules in school all day. They come home, they have to follow my rules in my house. But for them to say, I think I'm going to disagree with you on that, or I'm going to question that, and here's why. What that will do is that will then protect them from organizations and people like what we fell for and were born into. That's what I'm hoping anyway.
And maybe we won't fall for MLMs.
Man, I'm a sucker. Did you see? I got pretty high in Young Living in MLM, and it was a cult within a cult, and my downline were witnesses, and I'm like, man, what?
Wow.
Oh yeah.
That's a cult with.
Yeah, it was a whole thing.
But there is that kind of cult mentality where there are these people up here, and then you just bring in more people and bring in more people, and I wonder if the people, like when people answer the door, like I've knocked on the door and someone answers the door, do they in their head go, do you think for one goddamn minute I'm going to be doing this?
Right?
Like, wait a minute. You at my door basically is telling me this is what I got to do. Yeah. You're a walking advertisement.
Right.
I don't want to be doing this.
Assuming they had any belief at all, which is interesting. I remember going to the door, not interested in what was behind that door, but just, I'm here to prove to you why I'm right. That was really all we were doing.
It is all we were doing. And it's rude. It's rude AF to go to someone's house. Like if that person, maybe they were Hindu or something, you're going to tell them, because I'm sure there's been magazines where there's pictures or something, and you're going to, oh, here, look, sorry, your God, bad, not good. Your culture is not good. Yeah. Oh, Chinese New Year. Sorry. You can't celebrate that anymore. That's not okay. Day of the Dead. Nope. Wrong. Bad.
One of the
canceled.
things I also really appreciate about you is that since leaving, and again, we kind of left at the same time, 2018, 2019, and it's amazing how it just kind of clicked.
Mm-hmm.
You don't at all appear to be bitter, angry. You're living in a place of peace and serenity. I'm really inspired by that. And I know a lot of people in our audience would be too. What was it like for you when you first woke up? And I'm sure you went through the grieving process with anger and I've been lied to. How did you not sit in that space?
Well, I have to say, honestly, trauma.
Mm.
I get it. I went through so much trauma as a kid, just seeing the stuff that my dad put my mom through. And at the point where things started clicking, for that 1 to 2 years, my hands practically shook as I researched the organization. My hands sweat. My heart was always elevated. And I would so this was like right around the pandemic. I had learned to sew, and I was sewing masks nonstop, watching JW videos, so many JW videos. And after that experience and then starting to share and whatever, I felt so happy to be free. I felt like I went to prison. Oh, I'm not going to cry. I felt like I went to prison for 40 years, right? And I just got to walk out the door. I was free. And I get to tell the world I'm a good person. I am smart. I am capable. I have a voice that's worth hearing. I can change. Like the person I used to be, I've moved so far away from that. And that is all because I realized that it was within me the whole time. I was the God, but I was treated like trash and I believed it. And really, once I stood in that truth and realized I was free, I mean, the world really did change. And as much as it was hurtful and it was sad and what's up, what's down, where am I going from here? I don't have everlasting life now. Okay. Guess what? I've got right here and right the F now.
Yes.
And
exactly.
Boy, if I tell you, I'm not going to enjoy what I've got, and I've got a lot. And I'm going to fight for people. I'm going to fight for those who don't have a voice and aren't able to. I'm going to.
And that's why we're here. And that's why your account is blowing up. And, the other thing that I find so fascinating is that when it comes to activism, it is not just, I love it in the opening, you said, we're not anti the organization. We were inside. I never want to forget what it was like to be disfellowshipped, to go before a committee, to fight to get reinstated. I never want to forget what it was like to be on that inside. And I remember what I thought of people like me. I remember seeing apostates at assemblies and a memorial. Right. I'll never forget that. Mm-hmm. And I just feel the fact that you're an empath. I could just feel that coming out of you.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way. It's difficult. It's very difficult sometimes, but in many ways it's good. When you can learn how to help other people, I think it's actually really cool. Yeah.
Oh, believe me, I listen, and I'm the first one to admit when I was a judgmental asshole. I was one of the worst pioneers ever. I mean, I was awful.
Such a mean person.
Yeah.
But all those thoughts were implanted in our head.
Yep.
That's that's what I tell people. That's the real demons. The demons are the thoughts that they implant into your head that you make a reality. So, yeah.
Rion, I think this is a beautiful spot to close. We would love to have you back on. In fact, I'm really interested in some of the research that you've done.
Oh, I'd love to.
In the meantime, if you are not following her TikTok and her YouTube channel, please subscribe to both because her content is fascinating. If someone sees, I get a lot, listen to me, I'm one person. I get a lot of feedback. I say we
all the time. It's okay. I think it's a JW thing.
Because I feel like I'm a team with all the people who come on the show. I do get feedback that guests reach out to the person who came on and resonates with them. Is it okay with you if someone reached out to you and they see themselves in you, and
Absolutely.
your present self is speaking to their future self?
Yeah. probably the best to reach me right now is Twitter, if that's okay,
Perfect.
Because I have a terrible time checking social media, but my Twitter feed is under control right now. But of course, if you follow me on any other social media, I do follow back. If you can comment and find me and I see you, I will follow back.
Perfect.
I like building a community. So
yeah. I think that's what we're doing, and it's pretty awesome what we're doing. And
yeah,
I appreciate the fact that your content is super educational. And I think that's what sometimes we come out and we're craving this. Like, I just left what I thought was educational, and now I don't want to just Google something because we're susceptible to believe anything. So I really appreciate the fact that you're providing that space for people. All of Rion's contact information is in the description box. Follow all of her outlets, all of her channels. And Rion, we'd love to have you back on another time.
I would love to. I would look forward to it. This has been awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll catch up with you next time.
Okay. Thank you.
As always, I am so thankful to have you here. I'm grateful for this pep talk. If you want to be on the channel, feel free to go to my website, wendyrenee.com/share your story. There are now 3 options for you to share your story, 2 of which are anonymous. I knew I was going to find a way for you to share your story anonymously. And thank you so much for watching. And that's all we have for today. Take care.